Hello everybody, welcome to a new tutorial on BeatCutter. In this video I'm going to start to show you how you can process audio through an input bus, which is at the core, at the heart of BeatCutter. So I have loaded BeatCutter inside AUM as an insert effect audio unit instance. And I have initialized the preset to my favorite init preset. So please follow the configuration to ensure that you have the same result. So I have configured the input, triggers, control and sequence group buses to be on bus mode 1. As you can see, they are all down here to position number 1, and I have the outputs on position number 7. The reason I have configured them like this is because I want to ensure that the inputs follow a straight line, vertical like this. That's why I put them on position 1. The same for the triggers. The controls, I'm not going to use the controls for this video, so that's okay. And for the sequence, so the sequence, I want to ensure that, as you can see, it's playing now. You can see this vertical line. It plays all these cells vertically, so all the cells like that, and then the next one, then the next one, and like so. When the sequencer move from one position to the other, from one step to the other, if he is on step 1, he will play any cells corresponding to the outputs, which are here. So the outputs will be, when it comes to output number 1, will play any cells, which, but only one at a time, which are in this direction horizontally. When output number 2 is enabled for play, it will play in this direction as well. So if the sequencer is on step number 1 and there is one cell which contains some audio corresponding to output bus number 1, it will play. If there is recording also another cell, which for example correspond to the line on output bus number 2, it will play that as well. So multiple output buses can play at the same times, but you cannot play more than one cell per output bus. That's important. And the same for recording. And the input come through, the audio come through the input, and then it will face this first cell to start with. If there is a trigger, if the trigger is activated, it will start to record that cell. And then when you finish recording that cell, it will move vertically to the next one because that is the position which I set it. Okay, let's try this. Let's go to the input. Let's choose input bus number 1. Make sure that it is file. Let's choose the files and let's bring in an example I used before, a bass, and let's click set. Now we have a waveform which we are familiar with. If I click play, this is what it sounds like. But for now, let's turn these off so we don't have file direct play directly to the output. Okay, let's go now to the trigger. Please make sure that everything is down to 0, otherwise you'll have different results. Let's ensure that we are on input bus number 1. Here on the first slider, it says sensitive. So the audio is recorded when a trigger is activated. While the trigger is active, the sound is recorded. When the trigger is not active, the sound is not recorded. So if a trigger is activated, the recording starts. When it's deactivated, the recording stops. And when the sequencer comes along and touches that cell, i.e. when it is in that trajectory, it plays that cell and the content is emptied. If between recording one cell and there is time before the sequencer arrives to play that cell, then if the trigger is deactivated, it will record the next cell and so on through the metrics. The way to get the recording started is to increase the sensitivity, which you do moving up the slider. Okay, let's click start on the transport control. As you do that, you see the input coming through here. And if you go back to the main screen, nothing happens. You can see the activity on the inputs, but the trigger is not being activated. The reason that it's not being activated is because you need to get this level up to the maximus to activate the trigger. And you do this by increasing the sensitivity. It's like, in another word, if I go back to the representation of the waveform, it's like in having your threshold right at the top there, and as you increase the sensitivity, you move it slightly down, and eventually it touches the waveform and it lets through some part of the waveform. The lower you move that threshold, the more sounds or part of the forms will move through, which means you increase the sensitivity of the trigger. So let's increase that again. Actually, I'll tell you what, you heard something being played now. Let's go to the reverb and let's turn down the output, because we go to the audio in a little while. So let's go back to the trigger. So to the main screen, you don't see anything yet. Let's go back to the trigger, increase the sensitivity. Now you will see at some point it will start to hit right here, and that is where it will start to activate the trigger, like so. You saw activity on this trigger. When you see activity on the trigger like that, it records one cell, and if it gets deactivated and that cell is not being played by the sequencer, which is moving around here, it start to activate or record the next cell in this line, because that is the position I have located the trigger, okay, and the input itself. You can see there are dots which appears on the cell, a dot for the input, a dot for the trigger, recording this, okay. So now the sequencer comes along, playing, and this cell, you can see the output buses being highlighted, which means they're being played. So first, second, then played, then you restart again, first, second, then being played by the sequencers, first, second, being played, then you start again, first, second, and they're played again, and so on. Sometimes you might go to the third one and the other two are played, like in this case, and you start to record the first one, and then now you played the first three output buses. So let's stop now and let's go to the reverb and increase the audio, or double click on it to go back to the default, go back to main, and let's click play to understand what it does. First and second cell recorded, now it comes along, plays. Also the third one was recorded on time, now starting on the fourth. He played the fourth, the first and the second on the output buses. First and second as well. If this is too fast for you to follow up, just go to the sequencer view or sequence view. Here where it says steps, you can decide how many bits you have per step, so you increase them for now, and I will come back to the screen in a future video, and you will find under main that the sequencer start to go slower. Again, if it is too fast, just increase it again. See, it goes lower. Now, if the sequencer is going slower, the trigger and the inputs will have more time, or should I say the trigger will have more time to record cells, and you can see now that if I click play, it will record more cells. So let's wait until he skips step number one. Here we go. First one recorded, second one, third one, even the fourth one. Now 4 have been played, so 4 output buses have been activated, and then it restarts again. Look what happens when I click stop. These 2 are still being recorded, therefore they will play anyway, even if I stopped. Because when I stopped, the triggers will stop recording, but the sequencer is still going. So if I have recorded a number of cells, those will still play. Okay. The other thing to remember is you can record only one cell at a time, and as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, a cell started to get recorded when a trigger is activated in this case, but there are other options also to set how that works. And when the trigger is deactivated, the recording stops, and then it continues to the next available cell. So if the sequencer is very slow, you might be able to fill up all 8 cells. It depends really on what you want to achieve as well. You have 8 buses, but remember it's an 8x8 matrix. Therefore, when the sequencer comes to play, I say that again, when it gets to step number 1, in this configuration, it will hit this vertical set of cells and it will play all the cells there which have some recording, as long as there is nothing else being played corresponding to the relevant output buses. In this case, they will always play, because this is the first set of cells, and therefore there is not already a cell which is active, okay? But if I had something else being played on number 8, which is still ongoing as a play, then that cell will not be playing if that output bus is busy. Okay, so let's try again. First recorded, second recorded, third recorded, even the fourth one, fifth one. 5 files have been played at the same time, or should I say 5 slices of that input file. Let's click stop. We still have 2 cells which have been recorded, which they will play, and you saw the output buses being activated. Okay, so I'm going to stop here. This is one of the fundamental core concept in terms of processing audio from BeatCutter. So make sure, please, you understand this, as the next one we will build on top of this, and it will get more and more complicated. I hope you found this useful. If not, leave me a comment and I will respond to the comment. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.